Well, and I think your comment about thinking ahead and doing that helps you prepare better to begin with, because we had been preparing for something for quite a while, and it enabled me to make a decision that I would not have been able to make otherwise, to get out ahead of it. And through all the bitterness and grief of it all, we are better off. We're way better off now than we would be having a great big mortgage and not being in a community. Good thing. But I think,
the other side, I think, with preppers too, is we tend to say, yeah, we're preparing for this disaster. We're preparing for really bad times. And most people, they think, okay, if the grid goes down, 90% of the country will be dead within 6 months, kind of thing. But people don't really visualize that stuff, right? I think a lot of times they kind of pencil whip that sort of thought, because the level of carnage and chaos that go with it, it was like when the first time I was attacked overseas, right? It's like, oh, this, I had no idea what this is going to be like, what this experience is going to be. You think you do, but then it's real. It's like, oh. So I think trying to do your best ahead of time, and this goes to the OODA loop and all the stuff that we're talking about here, to think, visualize and put yourself in the place of, this is some really, what exactly you see happening and what that experience is going to be like. I read a story one time talking about guys that were in the Hanoi Hilton during Vietnam, right? And they're there for years at a time. And I remember one guy had said that he literally built his house in his mind. And that involved going to the lumber yard to pick up lumber. And he would do that in his mind and driving the nails, everything he had to do, measuring the stuff out. Is getting into that level of detail about, so where you can almost smell, touch, and taste it, right? Because that will help you when you get to that point, if it ever does happen, you've already experienced it on a level that you would have never experienced otherwise. And that helps, one, it helps reduce the sympathetic nervous system response. One, it helps your OODA loop. You got your OODA loop going faster, because at the same time, other people that haven't experienced, they're going to be free. They're not, a lot of people won't deal with it well. It's kind of like getting punched in the face for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
When you've gotten punched in the face for the first time, it's like, oh, well, now you know what that's like, and you got it over,
Yeah. And I don't like getting punched. I figured out really quick, I don't like getting punched in the face. That's why I became a prepper. Because the world, as we know it, changes every time we go to sleep. I mean, it ends as soon as we go to sleep, because it's a completely new world every time we wake up. And you never can tell what's going to happen between now and the time we wake up. And you mentioned it, my personal experience through this move and everything really concerns me about the future. If a big event happens, a true SHTF event happens, because I was in a good place where I could make the decision, and financially I could do what I needed to do. And I had moved into a built-in community. There are people out there now that aren't going to be able to have those luxuries. And it really concerns me on how they're going to handle it, especially if they're not practicing and doing the stuff of what you just talked about. It just really, really concerns me for a lot of people,
Oh, I think it's good. I think if something major happened, it would be mayhem. It would be. I always like to look back at when at the beginning of The Walking Dead, in the first couple episodes, when Rick rides his horse into Atlanta. Right? There's all this mayhem everywhere, and you could see what had gone on. It was just no one knew. And I think that's the way it always typically goes, right? But you want to be ahead of that. You want, in doing what you did now. I think that's probably a lot of why you're thinking that, because you've been through it and you're like, man, how many other people, if this was a mass event, what would that look like?
Absolutely. Thanks, Milo.